The New York Liberty, who are arguably the best team in the WNBA, defeated the Indiana Fever by a narrow margin. There was some controversy surrounding that final play, in my opinion, as it appeared as though Natasha Cloud had fouled her. At the time, the referees loved to ignore that aspect of the game, but they did not ignore the foul call on Lexi Hall against Sabrina Ionescu just 3 seconds earlier. Turned out to be a very close game, and the New York Liberty, who are regarded as one of the WNBA's best teams, won in a thrilling finish. Research indicates that Natasha Cloud probably violated her opponent, but the officials decided not to make that determination. Referees usually prefer to remain silent during important game moments like these, but ironically, they had no qualms about calling a questionable call against Lexi Hall. When she stood up for Sabrina Ionescu just before yesterday's game, it was terrible, bro. I mean, this might be one for the history books. I can't even lie, bro. The referees just showed their hand so badly that they didn't care anymore. The world was watching how terrible the cause was, and they didn't care at all. They were going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what, and I'm here to tell you that's exactly what happened. I mean, we need NBA referees all the time, man. I don't want these YMCA Junior League high school ass referees because they're currently costing the Indiana Fever Major League. I mean, look at the screen and know that was a foul, dude. My 4-year-old son knew that was a foul, bro. What the hell? Games that, even though it's early, we must win these games. This particular game analysis has sparked a lot of discussion because at the moment, basketball conversations are dominated by a single focus. NBA officials may lose their jobs after helping the New York Liberty defeat the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark through dubious officiating decisions. What happened during the live broadcast was essentially the theft of a competitive outcome, and the officials' handling of this contest wasn't just, the lack of calls against the New York Liberties was at an all-time high, bro. If this had been an NBA game, many players would have been in serious foul trouble, and the way Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever were getting fouled was just terrible. This looked like one of those situations where Caitlin Clark and the Fever found themselves competing against two opponents. The Liberty squad and the referees themselves played on CBS was terrible. It's difficult to watch at times even though they come back from a 15-1 lead, from a 15-point deficit, but I'm telling you guys that the referees are the storyline in this one. I stressed to you this offseason what I said was that if Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever had been called, there should have been 3 free throws, 3 of them, bro. This is so absurd, absurd that we need to write the WNBA right now because these referees have to go. Damn dog, bro, Aaliyah Boston, the game last night was truly awful. It may go down in history for all the wrong reasons. The officials' bias was so obvious that they simply stopped caring about appearances, and the entire world saw how awful their decisions were. Despite this, they remained unconcerned and were determined to vent their frustrations on the Fever no matter what. They hacked every damn play every time Caitlin Clark fed up the ball, and Aaliyah Boston was getting hacked time and time again, play after play after play. As Kathy stated in the preseason statements, the referees would be evaluated this upcoming season to ensure proper call accuracy on this stage. We need NBA-level officials consistently. I don't want these recreational league amateur high school quality referees. We need legitimate referees. That's exactly what happened, and they expressed their animosity in a significant way. There were multiple instances where I could immediately recognize obvious violations, and my 4-year-old child could identify those fouls. Professionals, because they are currently costing the Indiana Fever, were important wins that they absolutely need to secure despite the early season timing. This is bad, bro. This is my god, bro. Let me try to blow it up off the cloud. That's it. The screening action down low is that Clark has to get open, 1 second left foul, and boom, Clark fails to get the shot off. Call locks her up, and New York enters Indianapolis and takes the checkered flag. Delivered exactly that. They rallied from a 15-point deficit and showed tenacity, passion, and drive, but in the end it didn't matter because the referees took center stage. According to the analysis, many New York players would have had foul trouble prior to halftime. Caitlin Clark was subjected to continuous physical contact without protection, and Aaliyah Boston was roughed in the low post. The officials just ignored everything as if nothing had happened, and anyone who watched knows exactly what happened. Predictions during the offseason hinted that officials might try to thwart Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever's progress if they started to succeed. That's exactly what happened. The Fever came out of the second half ready for action, with Caitlin Clark dominating consecutive three-pointers, step-back shots, clutch baskets, embarrassing Sabrina Ionesco with a crossover move and energizing the crowd. The momentum was obviously shifting, and that's when the whistle stopped and the players were taken out of the game. Control. Now look at Natasha Cloud, and I made a video yesterday. I said that although I hope not, Natasha Cloud might be the reason Kayla Clark was attacked in this game. Someone told me this in the video's comment section yesterday, and I said, watch, it's always a player to screw over Kayla in this game, and it was Natasha Cloud. So a shout out to you who predicted that Natasha Cloud would be the reason Caitlin Clark never gets screwed over in this game. Action down low, Clark has to get open. 1 second left, Clark fails to get the shot off, which was a foul, guys. I wish we had another angle. Oh my god, I wish we had another angle. So guys, I'm literally browsing the internet right now in an attempt to find some footage, because Natasha Cloud just flat out fouled Kayla Clark, and yeah, and then people did Stephanie White, who is also in hot water because she didn't challenge it, didn't call anything, and didn't have a challenge left to use. But Stephanie Caitlin Clark was fouled on a game-deciding attempt with just 2 and 9 seconds left. There was no whistle, no examination, and she deserved 3 free throw opportunities that could have decided the outcome. It's absurd that officials disregarded such a clear violation. The frustration isn't just because it involved Clark. The problem is that it was so obvious it was incorrect, and the broadcast was awful. White did not use it, bro. Despite the fact that the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark rallied from a 15-point deficit, the referees controlled the narrative. This pattern was apparent throughout the off-season discussion. She could have contested that final play, bro, but let's move on to some of the game's highlights. The lack of calls against the New York Liberty reached unprecedented levels in an NBA game, and numerous players would have been in serious foul trouble. Is Caitlin Clark making these threes, bro? I'm telling you that I'm going to cook the bodies on the floor, and Clark is trying to split the defense. Caitlin Clark entered the game in the third quarter without fear, and you can see how she skillfully used her body to shield the defender. This is when things started to go south, and they called the foul on Lexi Hall, which is why they won the game right here. You know, the conditions are awful. Lexi Hall received a foul call that completely changed the momentum of the game when commentators suggested that perhaps it was an offensive foul while the defender was clearly maintaining legal position. The Liberty then capitalized on that possession to score from that point on, and it seemed as though the officials had predetermined the outcome because that particular play changed everything. There was no whistle after that, and she should have received 3 free throws, all of which she deserved. This situation is completely absurd, and we need to contact the WNBA right away. The Fever had to perform flawlessly just to stay competitive, but even that wasn't enough. I don't understand it, but I do think there are 2 takeaways. The Fever lost by 2, and Caitlin Clark was 2 of 12 from 3-point range. It should be noted that these referees must be removed because Aaliyah Boston was fouled on every Smurry possession every time Caitlin Clark passed her the ball. Do you realize how few games she will ever play or shoot? She might never have another stretch in her career. Let's go back to that last scene once more. I need everyone to see it. Caitlin Clark is trying to break free as she moves through screens, turns the corner, gets the ball with 1 second left, and elevates for the shot, but Natasha Cloud blocks her direct body-to-body contact, which is a foul in every league at every level, but they refuse to call it. What's crazy is that yesterday I made content that suggested Natasha Cloud might target Caitlin in this matchup. I wish we had a better camera angle for a more thorough analysis, but we don't need one because it's clear from the view we have that Caitlin was fouled. This situation is awful. Let me try to improve the image screen action in the low post. Clark must get open, 1 second left, foul right there. Clark fails to release the shot cloud, preventing her and New York from visiting Indianapolis to claim victory. She mentioned it in the comments section. Check out what happened. I'm not saying the Fever played flawlessly. They committed 15 turnovers and missed several crucial shots, but that's not the problem. The referees made themselves the center of attention. Now look at Natasha Cloud, and I created content yesterday and I told everyone that Natasha Cloud Cloud could potentially win. But the fact that officials let it go explains why people demand their termination, which is why this game went viral, because fans aren't stupid. Watch, there's always a player who creates problems for Caitlyn in every game, and in this game it was Natasha Cloud. I hope she wouldn't be the trigger, but she might be the reason Caitlyn Clark is targeted in this game. Someone made me aware of this possibility in yesterday's comments section. Therefore, congratulations to whoever foresaw that Natasha Cloud would be in charge of Caitlyn Clark's mistreatment in this contest screen action. The low post action requires Clark to get open, but 1 second to the left, Clark misses the shot, which was a foul. I wish we had another angle, so I'm literally searching the internet right now to find more footage, because this situation is absurd. It's obvious that Natasha Cloud fouled Caitlyn Clark, and people say Stephanie White is also being criticized because she didn't challenge it. Additionally, they had a challenge left to use, but Stephanie White didn't use it. The point is that the Fever were capable of winning this game, and the officials took it away. The worst part is this was supposed to be a statement game the night Caitlyn Clark showed the world that she could compete with the best in the league, and she did, but it wasn't enough because she wasn't just fighting the liberty, she could have challenged that final play. Now let's look at some game highlights that show Caitlyn Clark making an impact. The league probably won't take action, but they should, because this kind of officiating affects confidence in the entire league and influences how new fans perceive the product. These 3-pointers, because as I'm telling you, she was cooking Clark while trying to split the defense. Caitlyn Clark bravely entered the third quarter and showed off her amazing skill of using her body to shield the defender. This is when things started to go south, and this is when they called a foul on Lexi Hall, which decided the outcome and gave them the victory. She was battling officials who obviously didn't want her to win. I don't like creating content like this. I think there are two conclusions: 9,088, but it should be noted that this is probably the league's best team. The Fever lost by 2 when Caitlyn Clark shot 2 of 12 from 3-point range. Do you realize how rarely she will ever perform this poorly? She may never have another stretch like this in her career. To make matters worse, there was still a challenge available, but Coach Stephanie White chose to ignore it. I prefer to analyze highlights and talk about what went well, but sometimes you have to deal with the nonsense, because this was awful. Let me break this down, because it gets worse every time Caitlyn feeds the ball to Aaliyah Boston in the post. Boston was hit repeatedly without any calls, just like with Melissa Smith and Kelsey Mitchell. The referees let the Liberty play as physically as they wanted, but as soon as a Fever player extended a hand, the whistle blew. Even so, observe Boston's reaction. The Fever had a challenge in reserve, and they didn't use it on that last play. That decision could come back to haunt them. The Liberty made 25 out of 32 shots from the free throw.